United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Yeah, that's, then they come.
Need approval of the agenda, any additional changes to the agenda? I would like to request a change and let it be under other business. Any motion, I'd like to make that motion.
Did you tell us what the change is gonna be that
Well, I told you that one
road? You just have something else under other business.
Other business, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve that agenda with, another thing under other business.
All in favor? Public comment agenda items. Citizens are encouraged to comment at this time on any item specifically listed on the meeting agendas. Comment time is limited to 3 minutes. Anyone? Okay. Need the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of October the 7th.
Mayor Pro Tem, I need to make one change in those, minutes.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, if you will, on the vote where it, listed on the, Christmas decorations and so forth, it listed 3-1. I, recuse myself from the vote, so it should reflect 3-0.
Okay.
3-0, down there, Sparta 4 request,
Yes.
Miller Richardson being the no vote, wasn't a no vote. I
Okay.
recuse myself, so it should be a
Okay,
vote of 3-0.
okay.
If you'll make that change, I'll make a motion to approve these minutes.
Okay, got a motion to approve, we need a second?
Second.
Got a second, all in favor? 5-0. Got that now. DOT presentation concerning the plans for the bypass and Highway 18. You would introduce yourself?
Yeah, good afternoon. Hope everyone's doing well. My name is Matthew Evans. I'm the Division Maintenance Engineer with NCDOT, overseeing our maintenance operations in Division 11, which consists of the 8 most northwest counties in North Carolina. Also, have Mr. Randall Miles. He's our District Engineer out of Elkin, overseeing our district operations for Allegheny, Yadkin, and Surrey counties. So, wanted to come talk today about the intersection of NC 18 and Sparta Parkway. Here's the location we're discussing. I know you all are probably familiar with it. Just want to show an image, make sure we're all on the same understanding for the intersection. So a little bit of the crash history that we have had at this intersection. Since 2015 to 2020, we've had 19 total crashes. Out of those, we have 1 fatality and 4 serious injuries. In December 2020, we had some safety improvements that included some enhanced signage, some transverse rumble strips, and some oversized flashers on the stop signs. So, result of that implementation, we've had 8 crashes since January 2021 through February 2025. And it kind of shows a graph there, the total crashes for each of the periods discussed. And we have no fatal accidents or no serious injuries. So it's, I think, great thing. We've seen a 56% reduction in fatal impacts, which is also helped with these accident numbers. So I know there's been a lot of discussion about a roundabout. As a citizen of Allegheny County, I've definitely heard some of those discussions and has spoken, and Randall spoken with the town manager. So just kind of want to talk about the challenging aspects with that. The roundabout was submitted in the prioritization 7.0 of our state transportation improvement program. So that's the process to get projects selected. It was not selected. It actually scored fairly low compared to projects that were selected. I think it has been submitted again in the 8.0, which is underway right now, going through the scoring criteria for those projects. And the 8.0 is for years 2028 to 2037. So we're a few years out from ever seeing that, if it was ever selected. The initial cost estimate is about $4.7 million for that roundabout. There's some concerns with the environmental impacts on the southeast and southwest quadrants of the intersection. So right now, you're just looking at it, we would have to design a roundabout to minimize the impacts on those two quadrants, which then would get us into a smaller roundabout than a full size. And with truck traffic, that'll be a little challenging. So all I'd say is a full-size roundabout would be challenging in a design phase for the intersection, given those constraints. So one solution, or a solution we have come up with is potentially converting the intersection to an all-way stop. So kind of why would we look at all-way stops? It's actually very low cost, so less than $50,000 to convert this intersection. It's quick. It has minimal mobility impacts. I'll get in that discussion a little bit further later. And we've seen a tremendous, increase or decrease in accident history with all-way stops across the state of North Carolina. So since 2020, we've definitely increased the use of all-way stops and seen some really great results, which I'll get into in a minute as well. So kind of what intersections are good candidates for all-way stops is any intersection that has vehicles of 7,500 cars per day for a single approach. So I kind of listed that out. I got a little technical there, but basically the max volume that we have right now is NC 18 southbound. There are 4,900 cars a day, so we're a long ways away from that 7,500. So kind of giving us an indication, hey, this should function really well. The safety effects of all-way stops, we've seen a 90% reduction in fatal and serious injury crashes. I want to go on that, just expand a little bit more. So as mentioned, in 2020, NCDOT magnified the use of our countermeasures to better influence safety trends. As of early 2023, roughly 450 all-way stops conversion have been funded as safety projects in North Carolina. In North Carolina, 21% of frontal impact crashes occur in rural areas, but 67 of both fatal and serious injury frontal impact crashes are in rural areas. So, in a rural area, you have a 67% chance of a more severe top accident out of those 21% fatal or frontal impacts. Just to highlight some statistics, from 348 intersections that was studied, we had a 55% reduction in total crashes per year with all-way stops being converted to all-way stops. We had a 65% reduction from frontal impact crashes. And talk about injuries, fatal and Class A injuries. So that Class A's are your serious injuries that require hospitalization, 92% reduction. And then Class B's and C's, minor injuries, was 72% reduction. I think the next point is key. Before the all-way stops was 81 fatal crashes and 165 Class A injuries. After, there was no fatal crashes and 8 Class A injury crashes. So a significant reduction. All right, this is a little hard to see. Hold my notes right here. So we actually had a traffic study performed for this intersection to say how's it performing now, how will it perform with an all-way stop. So this is the existing condition. So if you look at lane group, you have an L, TR. The L is for left, T's are for straight through, R is for right turns. So right now there's turn lanes, so that's why those are split. Then has your delay time. Then the big piece of this is the level of service. You see an A and a B. So the level of service is how we measure delay time for cars. So A is good, it goes from A to F. A's and B's performed really well with minimal impacts. Then also you got the Q length, and Jose, if you could scroll all the way over, you have the maximum Q. So right now, this is kind of what we're seeing, the farthest queuing point that you have currently. So out of this, you're looking at like a 60-foot queue in the afternoon. I will say the AM and PM, those are peak hours. So you're looking at from 7 to 9 AM and 4 to 6 PM. So that's just what we would expect the maximum queuing point to be at the intersection currently. All right, move to the next slide. So this, we projected out to 2045. So 2045 was chosen with a 0.5% growth rate. So if you look at this information, you'll see this is just the existing condition with no improvements. You start seeing more level Bs, level service for Bs, but in the Q lengths, you get up 70 feet or so. Still function extremely well. And then here's what the always stop situation in 2045. So we would remove the turn lanes and then just have one lane for each approach. The level of service are all A's except for one B, and it barely makes a B. I think it's 10.1, and anything over a 10-second delay or 10 to 20 second delay is a B. So we're barely in the B. And then your maximum queue that you would see will be 104 feet, which is about 4 cars. A car is about 25 feet when we're looking at these queue lengths. So really to kind of break down the data, saying always stop is going to function with minimal delays, very similar to now, probably is better for the bypass, very similar for 18, with a maximum queue that we would anticipate to see is 100 feet at the max peak hour traffic. So some key takeaways, for a roundabout, it's really unknown if will a roundabout ever get built here. I mean, it has to go through the prioritization process, the STI law, go through that process. Like I said, last time it went through, it did not score well compared to other projects that did get funded. The roundabout project can always be submitted in the future. It's submitted in the next round. It can continue to be. Always stop is it's recommended. It can be quick, operate with minimal delays, and really I'm here to ask for a resolution of support for consideration, for the town support of the always stop. And that was just a picture of one we've done recently up in, I think that was actually Caldwell County. Be happy to take any questions.
Calling Sparta Parkway, isn't it considered a 21 bypass?
It is, it's about, I started out with bypass and Google called it Parkway, so that's how I ended up back at Parkway.
How many scenarios have you got where a US highway crosses over a state highway? I mean, you got that?
I'm sure we do.
With a 4-way stop?
Trying to think in our division, I don't recall right off. I mean, it's really more about the traffic, traffic volume. We typically will see these. I know just went down to the coast and was on a primary highway. And they had a 4-way stop that was functioning really well. I think it was 2 NC routes. I don't believe it was a US and NC route, but it's really more about the traffic volume versus the classification of the roadway.
We asked many years ago, I don't know how many years ago, about a stoplight. And I think we were told many times, many years ago, we didn't have enough traffic. Is that still the same consensus?
That is correct. So there's specific warrants for a traffic signal, and it
Don't make it.
It doesn't make it. So those are, you know, when it comes to engineering, and engineering judgment, when it don't meet the warrants, then it's really a hard no to start off.
I know it's a hard adjustment period after you've had free flowing traffic on a road and then, then making it a four-way stop. I still see people, go through Grandview across the bypass without stopping even today, and it's been a stop sign there for years. Would you initially put out some kind of flashing lights or something to draw more attention to that stuff, especially on Highway 18?
Yep, so we would put, additional signage up with flags, and also we would leave the overhead flashers and change it to all red, so they're flashing red as well. So we would leave that in place, and actually, given that situation, that's not very common, but it leads to like an 87% reduction in crashes. So I think a all-way stop somewhere, you know, the 72%, and with the overhead flashers, it jumps up to 87. And then also, we would probably, and then looking at geo-fencing and social media to push messages out for driver education on all-way stops, we would do that, work with the town and the county, their social media platforms to push the message out as well, just so people become more educated.
Any more questions? Okay,
Thank you guys for your time.
appreciate you coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
When would we need to do this resolution?
So I'm gonna make the same presentation to the county at their next meeting too, so, yeah, I would say a month or so. I mean, yeah, it needs to last longer, that's fine, you know, just give you guys the adequate time.
Would that be on our December?
We could put it in
Agenda.
the December agenda, or we can put it in the, budget retreat meeting. Either one would be fine. If that's what council wants, we'll draft a resolution. If you want to take some time to think about it and then let me know, that'll also, we can bring it up for a vote at, on the next meeting.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda is request lights at the pickleball court. Jose, you wanna speak about that, please?
Mayor Pro Tem, this is a carryover from the last meeting. I think the council wanted to have a full council before a final decision was made on the pickleball court lighting. At this point in time, I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
The only question that I would have is, are the pickleball folks still willing to fundraise to pay for the lighting?
Yes. And with that, to add to it, if that's the route that they wanna go, I will speak with the TDA. The TDA has a nonprofit aspect of it. And I would recommend that any funding go to the TDA for tax purposes, because we can't provide a tax write-off for anything to the town. And then the TDA can provide a restricted, I guess you could refer to it as a restricted grant specifically for that. And we can assign that money to that line item. And that's solely what it would be used for. That gives them the ability to have a tax write-off.
I'd like to make a motion to put the lights up at the pickleball court. Being it, we'll put it on a timer and be cut off at a certain time, whatever we decide.
I guess the only question I would have about that would be, what are we gonna do as far as who's gonna be in charge of making sure the lighting's correct? Are you gonna be involved with all this? I mean, how's all that gonna work?
And so, because it'll be on town property, we'll reach out to, the cheapest route's gonna be going through Blue Ridge Electric. They will, and that's something I will work with Mr. Evans on, as to how far, what they can do, and the cost, and I'll work with the funders of it. We will put it on the timer that the town will establish. We will have to, and that'll be, once we get to that point, we'll bring it up to the council so the council can make a decision as to what time those lights will be turning off. And of course, they'll be turned on, once it gets dark, you know, depending the time of the year. And we'll have to adjust it. You can either say that during the fall they cut off earlier, and during the spring and summer they cut off later. That'll be a decision council will have to make at a later point in time. But for now, if, the motion is to proceed forward with lights, we'll go ahead and proceed with the, working with Blue Ridge to get that situated. And then, once those are ready to install, we'll discuss the timing of the lighting itself with the council so that we have a consensus on what time it closes and what time it'll cut off.
And something else I would like to look forward to is, you know, I know we got budget talk coming up and everything, but if we're gonna light the pickleballs, I'd love to see the basketball court lit up, and I'm a firm believer in you can't have enough light in the park. I mean, we're always talking about vandalism and everything else. I mean, I think there's some advantages to having light.
There are advantages and you can, and that's something we'll work with the council. We can put them all on the same timer, so they all cut on and off at the same time. And, you know, that'll be a capital improvement project that we'll work together to make sure we get all the other assets situated.
I'll second Mike's motion.
Just to follow up on what Josh said, and I said, this is the last meeting, going forward and having a plan and looking at expanding the lighting is good. I'm not necessarily in favor of something being done, and then we told them, nobody asked, and so we took it down, and then they turned around and said, yes, we can do it now, and then set a real big precedent. And in the immediate time frame, the folks playing basketball and the other folks who might wanna be there don't have lights, and we have a policy that the park is closed at dark. So, going forward, we can change all those things in an orderly fashion. But that's not what we're talking about tonight, but that would be what I would say would be a better approach, but.
Yeah, and for right now, nothing is gonna change in regards to the park. We'll come back with the current rules and the proposed new recommendations on the best timing to get people out of the park. And all that would go before council, before it gets approved, and before the lights get turned off.
That's before you turn on the lights at the pickleball court.
Correct, before those lights or the basketball lights get turned on, we'll have a consensus on what time, or we'll have established rules, what time the park will close. So that way, on the first day that the lights are on, there is no confusion as to whether it's 10, whether it's 10:30, whether it's 9. It's already been decided by council before we got to that point.
So why are we voting on it tonight?
Put the lights up.
Voting on to proceed forward with the lighting, obtaining the separate lighting.
Understood.
That moves the project forward, and then we'll go ahead, probably at the next meeting, we'll start discussing the timing of the park, the current rules, what
Understood.
needs to be changed.
Okay, motion, got a second, any more discussion? All in favor? 3-2, passes.
You didn't ask me,
Well, you did stick your hand up there.
That's fine, 3-2. But I'm glad we're gonna move forward with the universal approach to the whole thing.
Moving on to, police K-9 officers agreement contact. Lloyd's not here tonight, there, so you won't speak about
Yes.
that?
In your packet is a contractual agreement between the town and its, proposed K-9 division. We have reached out to our insurance adjusters, our insurance division. They have, agreed to insure 2 K-9s. This would put both K-9s on our insurance. They will not be used for, apprehension. They will be used specifically for narcotics and to assist with missing persons and to assist with, missing person and any other investigation that does not involve apprehension of a subject. That was, the big stipulation was we did not wanna get into an apprehension canine, because those apprehension canines are a little bit more costly, they're more risky. And I have met both canines, both canines are pretty easy to be around. Both of them are not gonna be owned by the town. The way the contract is written, if approved by council, is the town will pay, and the price was $200 a month. It is of the responsibility of the handler to provide food and shelter for the canine and to make sure it stays up to date with its vaccinations, and it has to provide training records that the police department will establish, and it will be 8 hours a month that they have to provide training for the canine, and it has to be tracked. If the insurance would cover if something was to happen to the canine while it was performing its job, our insurance would cover that. Or if worst case scenario, if the canine was to bite somebody, then our insurance would step in for that aspect. But in order for it to bite somebody, I mean, someone would have to approach the canine or attempt to attack the canine, and it's done in self-defense, which that would then turn into an issue for our attorney to deal with.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
we're not hiring 2 more people, we're not buying 2 dogs.
No, both individuals already work for the town, and one's a part-time employee, and the other one is one of our new full-time officers. Both of them are canine handlers and canine trainers.
So recommendations,
Exactly what are we doing? We buying a dog? We're
No,
not buying a dog.
this is the agreement for them to be able to utilize their canines while they're on duty,
I
and
understand.
for us to be able to have a canine division within the police department and be able to insure those canines.
Okay.
And we're insured.
Right, the biggest thing is
Understood.
making sure that we are insured, and it sets the precedence on the policy of us being able to have a canine program that has standards that have to be met.
Understood. I'll make a motion to approve that if there's no other comment.
Do you have any downfalls with any of it?
I do not have any downfalls with it. My biggest thing with the police department, with Chief Terry was it could not be an apprehension dog. That was the biggest thing. I've talked to both handlers said no, their dogs are not trained to be apprehension dogs. They will defend themselves if they're attacked, but that's typical of any dog itself. Both of them are handlers and trainers, so they've had these dogs for a long time. One of them has been utilized in the past, but has not been under insurance. It's just the risk that he took, which is not something that I would recommend.
Right.
So the purpose of this was to establish a program to make sure that we are covered should something happen to either the dog or any citizen that we encounter.
Motion's on the floor.
okay, have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
You got a second? Any more discussion? All in favor? 5-0. That's all. HACH invoice approval for sewer plant equipment. Can you speak to that?
Mayor Pro Tem, there's a tester that tests low-level chlorine at our wastewater treatment plant that has failed. Speaking with our former public works director, that specific piece of equipment has been here since he started working here, which is about 18 years ago. And it has finally died. The price of it is north of $5,000, so we have to get approval for that specific item. This prevents us from having to send samples every single day, which would then increase lab fees to the town. It's a bigger cost up front, but it's substantial savings on the back end, because we're not having to pay a substantial amount of lab fees. It's just, we need approval for that piece of equipment.
How does that work there? They just put a sample in that and it gives it,
It collects, they have to go and collect water, as it's getting ready to be, gets closer to the exit point. and it tests the amount of chlorine that is in the water to make sure it's at a safe level that can be discharged, as at the recommended or mandated, DEQ specifications.
Where do they test?
Where do they test? They go to the, exit point of the wastewater treatment plant, and they have to collect their samples from there. And that piece of equipment lives in the, treatment area, in the workhouse of the wastewater treatment plant.
And where do we have to take the samples if we don't have a
Oh,
machine?
if we don't have that machine, I would, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure. I know the last time that when we had the failure with our equipment, it had to go to Kernersville
Okay.
every day.
We can go over it and use it.
Well, we gotta have it. It's kinda expensive, little tester there, but
You make a motion?
make a motion to get it.
I'll second.
Got a motion, got a second, any discussion on it? All in favor? 5-0. Things do wear out. We'll wear it out. Evergreen Street discussion.
Surplus items.
Huh?
We have a, one item.
Surplus items.
Oh, I missed one. Okay, sorry about that. Resolution on surplus items. I noticed you had 3 different vehicles in here,
Correct.
3 different pieces of equipment.
Correct, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, we are gonna surplus 3 different vehicles, a 2010 Chevrolet Silverado, a 9-inch Western snowplow, and a 2010 Dodge Charger. The idea is to surplus these items on gov deals. Because it is gonna be, it's considered a public auction, there must be a resolution in place adopted by the council for us to be able to surplus these items. These items are no longer necessary for town operations. The 9-inch snowplow does not fit any of our items, and our pickup truck is well past its life, and the Dodge Charger as well.
It's 9 foot.
9 foot, not 9 inch, I'm sorry, thank you. The 9 foot, Western snowplow does not fit any of our vehicles. These items will be listed on gov deals because we can reach more individuals. We'll also go ahead and put a ad in the newspaper that people can go to gov deals to, bid on these items.
I need a motion to, put these items for, surplus bids. Or you advertise it for, certain length of time, and then,
We'll advertise it for 30 days, and then we'll come back to the council with the highest bid, and the council will, then make a resolution to award that bid or reject any bid.
need a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion, got a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 5-0. Okay. Now we're getting around to Evergreen Street discussion.
Council, on Evergreen Street, we voted last month to move that to a one-way street. We are working on that. However, we have to get the striping situated first, because currently the striping on one side of that town parking lot is not meant to accommodate the one-way going from 18th to Evergreen. So I just want to give you an update. We have got those quotes on it. We should be getting that parking lot itself striped. We're not going to do any sort of resurfacing or sealant on that parking lot, because it would put the parking lot at a substantial amount of money to repaint. The striping of the road itself comes out of Powell bill money. The parking lot itself will come out of our line item for town parking lots. Striping it without any additional asphalt or resurfacing will not require a substantial cost. So once that gets done, we will proceed forward, and I spoke with Mr. Miles and, Mr. Jason, Joyce, I think is that name. We will use one DOT sign and let people know for, 3 weeks in advance that road will be changing to one-way street. But we're gonna start with the striping aspect of it first.
So, we're good on that.
Yes, we just wanna give you an update where we are moving forward with the, one-way sign for Everest.
Okay. Number 11, planning board membership procedures.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I wanted to, kind of talk to you a little bit more about the planning board. In discussions with, the school government about planning board procedures, planning board, questions that the town has had. As we move forward to change or to restructure our town, I've given you a list of our planning board members. There was a question that was asked to the school government because our ordinances do not allow for outside members to be on the planning board. Our ordinance itself specifies citizens of the town who shall be appointed by the town council are the ones that will serve for the planning board. We do have 2 individuals that are not citizens of the town limits themselves, so that was a question that was asked to the school government. The school government pointed to General Statute 160B.307, extraterritorial representation on the board. And it's mostly gonna be proportional representation. When a city elects to exercise extraterritorial powers under this chapter, it shall provide a means of proportional representation based on population of residents of the extraterritorial area to be regulated. The population estimates for this calculation shall be updated no less frequently than after each decennial census. Representation shall be provided by appointing at least one resident of the entire extraterritorial planning and development regulation areas, the planning board, board of adjustment, appearance commission, and the historic preservation commission, if there are historic districts or designated landmarks in the ETJ area. I do also want to point down to, subheading C, which is the voting rights. If the ordinance so provides, the outside representation may have equal rights, privileges, and duties with the other members of the board to which they are appointed, regardless of whether the matter at issue arises within the city or within the extraterritorial area. Otherwise, they shall function only with respect to matters within the extraterritorial area. Our ordinance does not align with 160D.307, meaning that our ordinance does not allow outside representation. That is a wording change itself. We will have to make those changes to make sure our ordinance aligns to the general statute. However, I do want to point out that nothing in our ordinance right now specifies if the ETJ personnel can vote on in-town matters or not vote on in-town matters. They have the same rights as everybody else, which has resulted in both ETJ members holding the chair and vice chair to the planning board. So at this point in time, I will open up to discussion. I also do want to let you know before we open up for discussion that you do have one member on the planning board that is set to expire at the end of this month, and we still have one vacant position for the planning board itself, as our ordinance allows for 8 individuals.
My question would be to Mary, after, hearing what Jose just said, then how many members of the planning board by our population in the town could actually serve on the planning board?
How many from the ETJs?
Yeah, how many from the ETJ can actually serve on the board at one time? Because it sounded to me like it was population based.
And then you said that one could serve, so what's the?
So is it only one?
I
What's the
think
deal?
it's population based.
That's
That
what
was kind of what I understood, but I may be incorrect, but I think it's population based.
Good. So it is population based, and we have reached out to the county to see if they have any, census data on how many people live within ETJ, and at this point in time, the answer is no. So we're gonna have to go by the number of houses in the ETJ, and then what is the average household within Allegheny County to generate a consensus of what we may have out there.
Begs the question as to how we ended up with two, doesn't it?
But it still seems, even with the population, if you're talking about equal representation from the ETJ, I mean, it would seem that 1 of 8, because I wouldn't think there would be more than
And I'm
1/8 population in the ETJ versus the town, but it may be more.
And I'm not sure how many people would live in the ETJ, but I would tend to agree with you that you wouldn't think it would be that many people, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Begs the question as to why we have two.
Kinda does.
Mr. Boutron, how do you suggest we go forward?
Well, with the zoning itself, my recommendation to the council, and no, this is of no disrespect to the two ETJ members, that are currently on there. This is, I realize that both of them have been involved with town business for many years. However, I would recommend that the council consider the roles and responsibilities of the ETJ's the chair and vice chair remain with the town residents instead of ETJ personnel, because ultimately, if you live in the town, you should probably serve as the chair or vice chair to a committee that can dictate and can rezone properties inside the town itself.
So it sounds to me that you're, suggesting we redo our ordinance.
Yes.
For two reasons, for it to coincide or what's the word I'm looking for it to match the state statute, but also for us to signify specific duties and or not duties of specific members, so we need to redo this, correct?
Yes, my recommendation is the ordinance itself needs to be reevaluated by the council to, be more specific on the chair, vice chair, and voting rights. If council wants to adjust any voting rights to the ETJ, to the planning board. Because in accordance to the general statute itself, the ETJ members can either vote on all matters equally like everybody else on the planning board, or they can only vote on matters that affect the ETJ itself, and that would be a council decision.
And not to infer that the two folks that have served on the board, not to throw any, disrespect at all to them, and they have certainly served and so forth, but, and we appreciate your service, but going forward, this whole thing needs to be revamped, correct?
Correct, because at some point in time, even the timeline for terms has been completely, abandoned. You should have staggering, terms that you have someone in essence that expires every year, and every year you assign somebody to the planning board. And instead, you've got half the board that will expire in 1 year, and then you have 3 of those positions that will expire in the next year. Then you have 1 random position that expires at a term by itself. When the ordinance itself specifies that, the reason that they are staggering the top part is when the planning board was created to align with General Statute 160D, referring to the planning board itself, they had to assign terms. But if you read further down in that paragraph, it specifies that when those terms were completed, a new member would be assigned to a 4-year term. At some point in time, something, and I can't tell you what's happened, but somewhere along the line, we've ended up with half the board with 1 term, half the board expiring on the other term, and then
And
1
then-
random term expiration.
So, if I may try to pull this together, should we look at this perhaps in our retreat and revamp this whole ordinance, and in the meantime, put a moratorium of anything, of anything being sent to the planning board for any action, because we have basically an illegal planning board, and before we use it for anything else, don't we need to fix it before we use it?
It would be my recommendation that we fix our ordinances before we proceed forward, which leads to upcoming topic of items going to the planning board. That anything that would go to the planning board at this point in time would have to probably wait until
That's right.
January, until we
That's what
are
I'm saying.
set and we meet with the planning board. And that's another thing, is we are going to establish set dates for the planning board. Whether the planning board has an item that they have to review, or whether they don't have an item that they have to review. There will be a scheduled planning board meeting date every month. There will be a deadline to get items to them every month, just like there will be with the Board of Adjustments. We cannot continue to just call people and say, we have an item for you to review, as we continue to look to the growth of the town and to streamline our operations and make sure that everything is fluent. We have to put the planning board on a specific, on a schedule that is transparent to the public, and they know what days are the planning board meeting dates. They will be published on our website. Our planning board members must be listed on our website. Our Board of Adjustment members must be listed on our website, and that's something that Monica's working to get those items put up there.
And Mr. Bouchon, I think if I remember correctly, within the ordinance, it does state in our ordinance that they will have a monthly meeting, they will have minutes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that our ordinance did specify what you're saying, it just was never done. Or not
Correct.
done- not
Ordinances
done since
were-
I've been here.
Correct, and I'm assuming, and this is just an assumption, looking from outside, that since there probably were not many items that needed to go,
That's beside the point.
they redacted from following that, but yes, we will, as we move forward, we're gonna have everything on a calendar that is visible to the public, for them to know what day those meetings are gonna be. So even if it doesn't affect it, you just wanna show up to a planning board meeting, if they have an item, they know what day it'll be.
So do we need to make a motion that the planning board, the duties of the planning board are suspended until further notice, or until we get the ordinance redone and reestablish a legitimate planning board? Is that a motion that needs to be made?
I would recommend a motion that those items be suspended at least until,
All items.
until we get this situated. And before you make that motion, I do want to let you know, there was something else I was gonna mention about this. There was one individual who will be submitting, the property on Grandview Drive. I spoke with that individual, and this is another reason that we need to make sure the planning board has more consistent meetings. So last year, I had a discussion with this individual, and he paid the fee for rezoning, submitted his paperwork, we came here, we had the meeting. The council put a stipulation that the other item needed to be submitted for rezoning. In essence, we were incorrect, and I met with this individual, with the property owner today. He has passed the statute of limitation. The North Carolina statute of limitation is 7 years from when the property is visible from the public right of way. This individual was given a feasibility permit for his garage in 2016 on that property itself. He was already working as a mechanic on this property in 2016.
So this is a moot point, basically.
Right, so what we've done is we didn't charge, he will submit his rezoning for his other property. And that paperwork will come in next month. But instead of charging him for that one, we told him he's not being charged because we're just transferring the fee from one to the other. Or we're waiving it because he paid a fee for one that he should not have paid a fee for.
Right.
And in essence, his property, is eligible for rezoning to neighborhood business, or it can stay as RA. He said he was fine with it being zoned to neighborhood business. The reason it can stay as RA is because we passed the statute of
Understood.
limitation. The statute, and there's two statute limitations, I do wanna point these out, because these are very important that we understand this. There's a 5-year statute of limitation from the time that a, violation is issued to the property owner. If I drive by and I see a business in a non-zoned business area, and we issue a violation, they have 5 years from that point in time. But there's also a 7-year statute of limitation, which is what happened to the property on Grandview Drive. The 7-year statute of limitation means that if that property is visible from public right of way and has been visible for 7 years and has never been, addressed, once it reaches that 7th year, it has cleared its statute of limitation, there's nothing else you can do about it.
Understood.
Which is what's happening with his property on the left if you're driving out of Sparta on Grandview Road.
Uphill.
But he's willing to work with us, he says, I have a zone commercial and the right, or one on the right, he's submitting for rezoning. I did specify to him the acreage that he will need if he decides that he wants to do a house in that, specific lot. And I explained to him, you know, you're better off to have a zone as neighborhood business, and then you'll have to go through a subdivision to divide your land if you want to change that to RA in the future. He's aware of that at this point in time. He doesn't want to do the subdivision now, he just wants to rezone that whole right side as neighborhood business, which will make both sides, compliant.
One other thing on the planning board before we leave it is there are other responsibilities to the planning board other than just, rezoning issues. Can we get some specific wordage put on a piece of paper for these folks on the planning board? So if you're having monthly meetings, it may not just be a zoning issue. It may be some of this other planning, it's down in the duties part of this.
Correct, yes, and that is another reason we need to have monthly meetings, because the town of Sparta does not have a future land use plan map, which is very essential for us to move forward with. A future land use plan would, in a nutshell, it looks into the future as to what we want to do. There was a strategic land or a comprehensive land use plan that was done by the High Country Council of Government in the early 2000s and in the early 2020s. And it recommended all the properties along 18 and 21 to be rezoned as neighborhood business for the future. That way it keeps 18 and 21 corridors as business themselves. But there are several individuals or several properties there that are not being utilized as neighborhood businesses. And in the same aspect, we ran into a property recently, it's a house, that is in a neighborhood business. So it's a non-conforming house, but that house was there before the zoning took into effect. So it's legally allowed to be there, even though it's non-conforming. But if that house was to, and this is how this came up, if that house wanted to run a business out of that house, at that point in time, they now have to be compliant with it, which means that half that house has to be for the business, the other half has to be for housing itself. Which is how that one came up. We've talked to them, they redacted their plans of doing business there because they were gonna have to give up their living room, 2 bedrooms, bathrooms to make it all into a business.
So back to that land use plan, you said that was what year, 15?
Which one?
The one that you just mentioned, the land use plan that was
From
done.
the council.
The comprehensive land use, that was like 2022 maybe,
Okay.
2023, that's when that was completed. But there's not a future land use plan, which is strongly recommended that we have. And the future land use plan would allow the planning board and the council to take an item and say, okay, this property, because it's along the 21 or the 18 corridor, will be zoned in the future as neighborhood business. If someone comes in and says, I wanna zone that as RA MAP, then you can zone it as RMF, but you'll have to, provide a statement that says, while the property does not conform to our future land use plan, we elect to proceed forward with RMF planning. And that way it makes it, if there's ever any legal questions behind it, we follow the rules, what the North Carolina General Statute says we need to do.
Now, I'm gonna try to word this motion carefully. So, my motion is that we suspend all duties of the planning board as of tonight, contingent upon our reorganization of the planning board and our, getting the planning board back to functioning as it should under general statutes, which means that we're gonna get, before we accept any request for rezoning to go to the planning board, we are making the statement that we will have a legitimate, legally operating planning board. And if we can do that by January, that's good. If we cannot do that by January, then my motion is that we suspend any operation of the planning board until it's a legitimate planning board. Is that an acceptable motion?
So we got two items here. So number 11 says planning board membership procedure. Can we simplify that and say, for number 11, I'm assuming you're asking us for the procedure of you going ahead and,
Yeah, so that was the discussion that we had right now. The next item, was, so we'll get to the other one in a minute, but this item was for us to discuss and for the council to, in essence, I do need a motion that we suspend any planning board meetings until January. And this will give us time to bring all these people in here. And it gives us time to discuss in our special meeting in November, to discuss how, if there's any ordinances that you wanna adjust or create, and how we proceed forward with that. I did ask the school government, in regards to both of the members that are in the ETJ, what was their recommendation on that one. The school government recommended to let them finish their term, and then at the end of that, if the council wants to reappoint one of the two positions, if that's what the proportional would be, one of the two positions with a inside member as well.
The reason that I'm not limiting it to January, not to put a pause on anybody, but we've been operating against the law basically. So we're still got an empty seat. We still have to get 8 members. We still have to have, discussions and explanations and training for those 8 members. We still have to have our ordinance, redone to where we can operate legally. And if everything goes well and we can do that in November, if we have a blizzard, we can't get in here and have a meeting. So my motion says we're gonna get everything in order. The members of the planning board, we're gonna have it fully, have a full roster of members and have a legal, legitimate operating planning board as soon as we can. My motion doesn't say it's gonna be by January 1.
Correct, and I would, I definitely would not recommend that the planning board make any recommendations.
I've already said
Before.
I'm saying we're suspending any operations by the planning board until which time we have a legitimate legally operating planning board, which we hope to do as fast as we can.
Correct.
But I'm not putting the January 1 in my motion.
Right,
what's the terms of the two ETJ members?
the terms of the two ETJ members are
2026.
2026.
When it comes, we're short there on the planning board and also on the board of adjustments, is that correct? We're short on people.
The Board of Adjustments, I'm still working to get all the information on that one. I started with the planning board and I wanted to get that situated. The Board of Adjustments has a higher, degree of difficulty in this, because the Board of Adjustment ultimately can make decisions that do not go in favor of the council. That is the power that the general statute gives to the Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment is the only board that you have that can go contrary to the council, and the council cannot contradict the Board of Adjustment. Adjustments. So that one is a little bit more tricky, and we wanna make sure that one, I don't wanna try to do both at the same time. At this point in time, we had a Board of Adjustments meeting this, earlier, or the latter part of last month for a property that was renovated up on Main Street, a central business, but it has some dwelling capacities. I did work with the property owner to make sure we had the correct terms utilized. And in their verbiage to me, yes, it is a possibility that someone can, even though it's an Airbnb rental, if you have the money and you want to reserve that Airbnb for a year, 2 years, or 3 years, you can, which then makes it a dwelling. That's not a transient residence. So with that said, they went through the Board of Adjustments. We were very good to work through. I explained to the Board of Adjustments what they could not do. The Board of Adjustments goes specifically off facts, and that's what makes the Board of Adjustment have a difficulty in this, because if half the community comes in here and tells the council they don't want a specific item, but all the facts are there and everything has been met, the Board of Adjustments can turn back around and say, I know you don't want it, but the law says this, and we must follow the law, and that item goes, that specific property goes.
Is the Board of Adjustment considered quasi judicial or no?
It is, and it's a different animal.
So what we're saying, Mike, we're not gonna work on Board of Adjustment right now. My motion is about the planning board and getting a legal standing, fully staffed planning board before the planning board does any further work for the town of Sparta, because we're operating right now illegally. So that's my motion. So if anybody wants to second it, that'd be great. That's my motion.
I'm gonna ask another question. Either Board of Adjustment or the planning board, if everybody's got a recommendation, how do we choose the person to serve on that board?
It's a vote by the council.
Okay, so if we got 5 different people, we're gonna have to vote on each 5 of them.
Correct. So for the vacant position, if you have 5 individuals and you want to go through each one, you'll pick the ones that have the most vote, and from there you have to narrow down to the one person that everyone, that the majority agrees to.
Okay, I second Millie's, motion right there that we table, well, we don't exactly table.
We're suspending our planning
Suspended
board.
the planning board
Till we get it set
until
up
it's,
right.
till it's legal.
I have one question before we go to vote. If we have someone who is working outside of an ordinance, but has a request in for rezoning, and if they continue to work outside of the zoning from now until we get this fixed, will they be fined?
No, and the biggest reason is because we don't have a planning board in place to fix that problem. Now, the planning board is the only one that the council doesn't have to take the recommendations and can go upon themselves, but because we do have ordinances for planning board, we have to send it to them. But if we're suspending their action, we cannot fine or suspend or abate anybody from what they're doing until we get this stuff situated. But we are reaching these individuals and letting them know what needs to happen and how they need to proceed forward to make sure that their paperwork's in. They can continue to submit their paperwork, and we'll continue to get their paperwork. And we can continue to push stuff to the planning board. But in essence, what we're doing is we're stacking the plate for them when they come back into session and start the process of going through the rezoning phase.
And one other thing is, if we, as we move forward with this, I think we're doing our, folks on the planning and also on the adjustment board a great disservice by not providing them with some training.
Right.
I just think whether it be that Peggy could get them set up or they could do some online training. A lot of folks, and I was one on the adjustment board, came in and did not know the duties of that position. And I think we, as a council, ought to make sure that we train these folks of what their role is on each board.
Yeah, and we have reached out, we actually had a training lined up for the planning board and it got canceled because it was only for Board of Adjustment members. And in essence, we've told these individuals, you don't get paid by the town, but we're making you go to Boone, or we're making you go somewhere outside of Allegheny County to do the training, we'll provide the transportation, we'll provide you the meal, but we wanna make sure that this is done right, that they understand, the impacts that they can have with their decisions as we move forward.
Now, Mr. Bouchard, if I'm correct, and Mr. Atwood touched on this, if some, entity is operating out illegally in their zone, if something's been constructed and there's business operating that doesn't coincide with the zoning of that particular space, we have no recourse.
Correction, at this point in time, we don't have recourse because we don't have a planning board that is functioning to take care of that.
Understood, but having said that, simply because we had an ordinance that, and simply because we had a zoning map, and something was done in a zone that was not, legal in that particular zone, we have no recourse to do any sort of stop and desist or anything.
To enforce our ordinance.
Right, to enforce our ordinance, we don't have any way to enforce our ordinance.
Correct, because we don't have the planning board aspect right now that's functioning to get the recommendation to the council. The way
The
the
council
general
can't-
statute reads is you have to send it to the planning board. The planning board has 30 days to act upon it. If the planning board refuses to act upon an item in 30 days, then the council can take the item back from the planning board, but we have to send it to them for 30 days. In this case, and I'll pose this question to school government on Wednesday when I'm down there with them in person. In this case, because we're suspending the planning board, we are taking the middle part of the equation out, so we probably will run into more legal issues, sending items to a board that we know is suspended without giving them the opportunity to actually view that item.
Well, we can't, so we're between a rock and a hard place, because we can't cease and desist if something's being done that's not in that zone, but we can't bring it to a planning board that is not legally set up to start with, so we don't have any choice but to do what we're doing, is that correct?
Correct, they will
My
continue to
motion
operate
stands.
until we get everything back in order.
My motion stands.
The only question I got, Farron hit on this, and I'm just trying to make sure I understand correctly. For anyone that's doing anything today, that's already been approved by the planning board, they're gonna continue doing what they're doing, work's gonna keep going.
If anything has been approved by the planning board up to this point in time, we can't go back and subtract that, because that was approved by,
And then we approved it too.
right, it was approved by the
So
council.
this is not retroactive, Joe.
No, we're not retroacting on any items that we put, what we're doing is we're fixing the planning board moving forward, so we don't have any problems with these.
So it'll have an effective date of when the ordinance is redone.
Correct.
Okay.
Has everybody got that figured out right there? 'Cause my head's spinning right there. But we got a motion and we got a second on not doing anything till we have a legal planning board.
I would like to make sure that we revisit this in December and get an update, and
Right.
revisit it again in January to get an update, to make sure that we're not taking this on into February, March, and
Right.
April, because we're not getting things done. I would like for us to get a monthly update at least
And,
on what the progress is on the.
and we're gonna talk about it at our retreat, is that,
Correct, and I've got to go to, I have to be in Chapel Hill next week with the school government for, zoning officer course. And I will have these, they're aware that I have several questions that I need some guidance to make sure that we do this correctly.
right,
The council of government in Boone, Chris, Grubbs, I think is his last name, he and I have been discussing this, and he's aware that me and him will have a meeting, and I'm gonna make a trip to Boone to sit down and discuss this with him and make sure that all of our items are correct, and that our ordinances are in alignment with the general statute, so that we proceed forward correctly.
Okay. Gonna try this again. Got a motion, got a second. All in favor? That's 5-0, okay.
So then are we gonna strike item 12 from the agenda?
I would recommend that we take the next item and just put it on their agenda for when they come back into session, so that we don't get these items, or we can table it.
But will that not be over the 30 days?
It would be, but again, we don't have living days. We can table it to December, which would be better if you wanted that.
To try to keep us in that 30 days,
Correct.
I would suggest we did
Try to do
table
it
that,
set for
table item
December.
12.
I'm fine with that would.
And then if in December, if we're still, doesn't it look like that we're gonna be more, we can table it again, can't we?
Correct, and I did have, Mr. Dow reach out to these individuals and let them know that at the earliest, if we got all this situated, it would be January before they would be able to have their zoning hearing.
Okay.
I need to make that motion to table.
I make a motion that we table item 12 until the December meeting.
Second that motion.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Okay. Resolution for land sale, Michael Lau.
So council, at this point in time, in your packet, there is a resolution to proceed forward with the sale of the land. We do have to have a resolution forward. I know we've already discussed this. We had a motion to proceed forward with negotiation with Mr. Macalau, 2 months ago. And in that is just an example of the resolution of the two properties that will be sold to Mr. Lau. These properties, again, would go to him. The resolution is required by general statute because we're selling public, items that were at some point in time obtained with public funds. We're selling this to him, and, they're both are more beneficial to him than they are for the town. They're more of a liability for the town.
Make that motion, sir.
Second.
A motion, second. Any discussion? All in favor? 5-0. Okay. Set a date in November to discuss 26, 27 budget.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, at this point in time, we begin our budget process for the next fiscal year. We will have a budget retreat where you will be given information on the current budget, where we stand on that budget, and you will also be, allowed, this will also be the opportunity for council to bring in ideas for the next fiscal year, what you would like to see put into the budget. I just need council to give me some options for dates.
And we are gonna talk about getting the planning board straightened out at that point as well, so it's gonna be two things.
Yes.
So we're just gonna take a day, probably do that, maybe 8 hours, 12.
Yeah, we can take a day, how long you want to. We can start early, or we can start midday, however the
Start
council
early,
wants to
stay
do.
late. We'll take a little time.
And we're just picking one, but if we get to that one and council says, you know, we've been at this for 3 hours, 4 hours, let's recess it and re-adjourn a different date. That'll be a decision that you can make during that time, and you can do that.
What's good for you, sir?
November's tough. Any day next week or the 18th is the only days I'll have in November.
What about the 18th? Is that good for everybody?
I'm fine with the 18th. Next week I'll be in Chapel Hill for zoning.
You wanna do after lunch? You wanna do it in the morning?
Better start at 8 o'clock.
That's right, yeah, we
Or
gonna be
6.
6. Eighteenth's fine with me.
18th of November.
What time y'all guys wanna start, seriously?
What time?
We are here whenever you tell us. If you wanna do,
Do it at 9 o'clock, then
you wanna start at 9 and then see how far they go?
do it at 9 and go.
9 o'clock. All right, 9 o'clock, November the 18th.
And it really shouldn't take all that long, it will take a couple hours.
Down to number item 15, manager's report.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, just a couple of items I wanna give, everyone an update on. The automated meter system is going into the ground, started today with the commercial accounts. All, commercial and 2 residential houses, anything that has a 1-inch meter or higher has been put in, or is being installed by G2 Utilities. They are riding out and about and swapping out our meters. I will give a lot of recognition to our front office staff, to Peggy and Monica. They have been very vigilant, working vigilantly over the past week and a half, 2 weeks, probably a month, to update our system, make sure that our mapping system is correct. I know, Monica, she was sick a couple days ago, and she still came in and stayed over and worked on trying to get the system, going. Our crews have been out in the field cleaning meter boxes, so we can expedite this process as much as possible. So it has been, for the past, month, it has been all hands on deck to get this system up and going into the ground by the deadline of December 31st.
And you said which one, you started with the commercial?
We started with all 1-inch and, 1-inch meters and higher, which are mostly our commercial, vendors. We do have 2 that the town will install at a later point in time, because there's some work that needs to be done to those water lines before we can install them. But we do have our preliminary date at this point in time, and as we get closer, it looks like it's gonna be more of a hard set date of our, system training for our front office staff in December 8th and December 9th. Which, that occurs 9th and the 10th, which means that our office will be closed, our front office will be closed on those days, so that our staff can do, training on the system and making sure that they understand all the components to it. It is a project that's well overdue, and we are moving as fast as we can to have this in by the deadline that we established of December 31st.
December 31st.
Yes, ma'am. The next item is our wastewater treatment plant. At this time, the projected date to drain and start dismantling is December 8th. At that point in time, we are working with, or Rockland is getting all the final designs from the manufacturer, the blueprints from them. We will be sending our public works director to Illinois in May for training with the aqua wastewater system itself, where he will get to see additional systems, how they're being used, and get to learn the ins and outs of the system as well. But at this time, the laydown yard has been completed. It has been leveled. The construction company is bringing their mobile office, setting it up, next week. We will be attaching that office to the necessary infrastructure, and they will start bringing equipment and laying it out in the yard, in the next couple of weeks. So again, the December 8th is the projected date that we will drain the holding basin and start dismantling. I spoke to the dismantle crew out of Hickory, 2 weeks ago, and we are on the books for them to be up here pretty soon to start dismantling that. The utility accounts for landlords, we have, I did speak with one landlord who came by. Actually, I spoke to 2 landlords who come by with some concerns over this item. One of the recommendations that one of them had was, could we cap it? Cap the liability to the landlords. This is an item that I've looked into and I've considered. If we elect to go with the cap, and once we get to the part that we see this ordinance aspect proceed forward, I would say the cap should be no less than $500. Meaning that if a tenant leaves a property and they leave with a $400 bill, we'll apply the $100 deposit to that, but then the landlord will be responsible for up to $500. And if, say, the tenant left with the $700 bill, also apply the $100 deposit, the landlord will pay the other $500, and the town will lose out $100, which is better than the $700 that we would have lost initially. I think the more I've thought about it, I think I see their concerns with it. I also did explain to them that this new system will allow us to track. Their question was, what if a tenant was to leave? They're gonna leave at midnight, they cut all the water on, it runs all night long, nobody's there to see it, they're at home asleep. Our system will notify us that there is a high usage in that property. The next morning, we can have somebody go out there to see if there's a leak, and we can call them, or we can cut the water off from the meter if we need to, if we suspect that there is a leak. Obviously, we can't go into the house and see what's happened, but if we suspect there's a leak, because the house is vacant and it's still using water, then our crews can cut the water off from the meter itself and lock it until the landlord can confirm what's happened at that property.
And Mr. Butron, I spoke, and I think Mr. Atwood maybe had spoke with the landlord too as well. And what I shared with them, and hope that I was being honest or accurate, with our new policy on water cutoffs, with our new meters, then the probability of these problems persisting in the future is greatly reduced. Because just the reason you said, if there's unusual amount of water, we're gonna know instantaneously within 24 hours, or next business day.
Correct.
So my comment to them was, this has been a problem in the past, but we're going into where we have new policy and procedure, water's gonna be cut off, so they're not gonna be running up the bill at that point, and with this new meter system, we'll know, within hours if there's, excessive use. So that's to the landlord's benefit as well, because it's not gonna run up these big bills, is that correct?
That is correct, it's to the benefit of them as well, because it doesn't run up big bills, and it also, it's to the benefit of the tenants. If we call the tenant, we tell them that there is a high usage on their property, and they say that we're not using water, our water is off right now.
Right.
Then we can make a note in the chart, we called them, we told them, obviously they have a leak somewhere, which is a responsibility of the landlord, which has also come back and hurt the town in the past, where landlords have refused to fix these leaks and have caused other high bills to them, and what happens, their tenants get mad and they leave with an unpaid bill because, in their defense, it's not their loss of water, it's not their fault, it's the landlord's fault, and the landlord refused to fix it.
Makes sense too.
So there's various things, there's a lot of things gonna happen to it. But, we kinda held off this month right now on working on that ordinance, so let's see what we're doing. We did do a substantial amount of cutoffs. Anyone that was 60 days or more was cut off. We had 70 cutoffs that occurred this month. And many people have come in, have paid their balances up to what they're supposed to be paid. And we have told everybody that, they will also have a reconnection fee, and they paid their late fees, and we've explained to everyone, we put it on our website, that late fees are being applied on the 19th day of the month. Moving on with that, we've also have told several people, if you have any questions with our water policies, everything is on our website. You have to just go to the website, click on it, you can read the policies. You have a question on write-off, on bill adjustments, if you have a question on sewage, if you have a question on swimming pools, whatever it is, it's on our website, it's been there since June. Moving on to the next thing, hydrant training. Our crews have just completed hydrant training, which was the first step in moving forward with the hydrant repair items for the town of Sparta. They spent the entire 8 hours with a representative from one of the hydrant companies. They've gone through, they tore a hydrant down, they looked at all the pieces, they found components, And it wasn't them just standing there looking at them, it was them in there pulling the hydrant apart, the representatives telling them what they needed to pull, how those items work, going through that. That was the first phase. We didn't want to approach this as we start ripping hydrants up and replacing new hydrants. We wanted him to tear a hydrant from top down to make sure they understood what's happening, so that way we know what items need to be done, and we're not replacing hydrants automatically. We are evaluating them, repairing them, and all of our crews got that firsthand experience on how those hydrants work and how they need to be repaired moving forward.
Excellent.
So with that said, now we move to the next phase, and that is designating the hydrants that get repaired in each phase, now that we've done that. They are gonna have a second phase training with that as well, because we do have another style, we have a couple different style of hydrants, but there is some of the older hydrants have a specific, are not made the same, so they are gonna tear an old one up just to make sure that they are familiar with that as well. Right-of-way clearing, our crews have also been doing right-of-way clearing, somewhere in all the time that between meter readings and training and preparation for our system. We have cleared, a good substantial, we had a long list of roads that need to be cleared. They've cleared half those, they still got cleared some more. They know that these roads have to be cleared before winter weather gets here. And if you look at the Farmer's Almanac, we're in for a nice little winter this year. So we definitely wanna make sure we get that cleared up. Confined space, training, our crews will also be doing confined space training on Friday. That is a substantial, that is a big item for me from day one, when I realized some of the items, some of the quick work they were doing. We have finally been able to get that situated. That is a joint training with assistance from Allegheny Rescue. Allegheny Rescue will be assisting us with equipment, with harnesses, with tripods, and I have worked with the rescue squad, and in coming into an agreement, we'll eventually create a legal MOU that'll come to council. The rescue squad will be providing standby assistance for us for whenever our crews are gonna be inside of manholes or inside of any trenches that could collapse. The rescue squad has offered to assist the town with the necessary items and equipment to make sure that our crews are safe.
Good.
And we'll make sure that planned work also involves their on-call staff, so that if something happens, we're not in a situation where we have an employee 30 feet in the ground that we now are having, that has become unconscious because they didn't have the proper training and they didn't have the proper equipment while they were down there.
Or 10 feet to grab for that matter.
Or 10 feet, correct. And the last thing, we are sending our public works director to an additional copper and lead training. Should get us some additional funding for the town for our infrastructure, where he will, one, not only get a full-blown understanding of the copper and lead assets that may be out there and how to identify and remove those items, but also it will allow him to explore funding opportunities for the town to be able to eliminate any copper and lead items out there. And that is it for the manager's report.
Okay. Number 16, other business, asked the council there, I'd like to, next month's meeting was scheduled for December the 2nd, and I would like to, reschedule it for Wednesday the 3rd, same time. And I talked amongst everybody, and everybody said they're okay with that, so are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
That's what I want to bring up first, rescheduling the meeting.
Need to make a motion?
Yes, you need a motion to change that meeting so we can do that.
I'd like to make a motion to reschedule December meeting to the Wednesday the 3rd at 6 o'clock.
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor? 5 of them, okay. Make me happy. Now we're down to number 17, public comment opportunity. Anybody would like to make a public comment? Anything?
Mr. Boutron, if I might, gentlemen, if, I'm gonna guess that you folks are here about an issue on Maple Street.
Yes, ma'am.
We always hear about Maple Creek.
And so they're not on the agenda per se, but Mr. Boutron, I think what we discussed about the planning board, applies to that. Would it be, acceptable for them to ask their questions and relay to them what we've just done, which I think is gonna have something to do with their questions?
Yeah, you
As
can,
opposed to them having 3 minutes and,
I would, no, go ahead.
well, no, I'm just saying that,
If they've came and they've sent through this meeting and they won't speak, I let them speak.
well, exactly, but normally we don't respond when people are just making public comments, but in this particular case, it's something that was on the agenda and we have taken action, but just to clarify to them what we just did, is that acceptable?
it is, I can't tell you not to speak to them. It is not customary that the council would respond in public hearings.
Understood.
That's an individual, council member decision as to how you wanna do it. If you wanna reiterate that, you can. That's the individual decision for each individual member of the council.
Who got spoken, like to speak, or
The only thing I'd like to say, my name's Michael
if you
Farmer.
would, come up here and at the podium.
Only thing I'd like to say is, my name is Mike Farmer, Michael Farmer. I've been a resident of, Maple Street, going on 56 years as of December. And, it's always been a quiet neighborhood, a good neighborhood for children, et cetera, whatever, you know, neighbors respect neighbors. And I'm looking at your sign here, heritage, opportunity, and a pleasant environment is what sticks out to me here. We don't have a pleasant environment on Maple Street no more. We've had a lot of things shoved down our throat here recently, not saying y'all done it, not per se. With the school opening the gate up there, the traffic is hideous on Maple Street. You need to try to, about 7:30 to 8 o'clock, or about 2:30 to 3 o'clock. Try to get up or down Maple Street. You got school buses coming up and down Maple Street, you know, all that during that time. You got parents taking their kids to school and picking them up. It's busier than Main Street. You need to come up there and check it out. I mean, and I have asked some of the officers, they're not here, to come sit up there. I've been run off the road. I'm sure everybody here that's been sitting here has been run off the road many, many times. We have to get off in the grass to keep from getting hit head on. And I've asked officers to come up there and said, you know, there used to be a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. Well, 45, 50 is the norm. I don't have a radar, but I know how fast cars are going, you know. But anyway, the point is, we do not need this wedding venue, per se, on Maple Street. We're totally against it. They have come in, they've tried to take over everything on the street. They're going up and down the street trying to buy everybody's property. We don't want it. We don't want them there. I don't want them there. My grandkids are on that street. My neighbor's kids are on that street. We have 2 handicapped youngins on that street. 2 autistic kids that can't even get out of their house on account of the traffic. And now they're wanting to add more. Well, Saturday morning, I come down Maple Street, they built a new parking lot. I don't know if anybody's been up there and looked across from the wedding venue. The new parking lot was slap full of cars. They're operating without y'all's approval, of course, because they don't care. You know, it'd be easier for them to pay a fine. Like you just said, we can't do nothing about it, right? We can't stop it right now until we have a legal planning board. What about us? You know, I'm just outside the city limits. I'm speaking for these folks here. I'm just outside the city limits, probably a couple hundred yards. But I still have to drive up it every day to get home. And the street is nasty, the trash is unbelievable straight out down through there. You have what they're doing down at Wayne Wright's old car lot, they're piling trash up behind the dumpster, town won't pick it up because of building material. The other day, a couple Saturdays ago, I can't remember what day it was, I'm sorry, but went by there and they had lit the dumpster on fire. And I went down here and talked to two officers, well, the two officers went up there, I don't know if y'all know anything about that. So they're just doing what they want willy-nilly, they don't care what y'all think, what we think, they have no desire to care. Why should they, when we can't do nothing about it? We can't enforce the ordinances is already here, it can't be done, you just said that. I mean, filing them, that don't impress them. So what are we to do? We're getting this shoved in our throats. And I've been there for 56 years. Mr. Murray over here, his dad owned the house above mine long before I was born. The Maple Street has always been a quiet, peaceful neighborhood. What's our pleasantness in this town if we got to deal with this? That's my question to you. Would you like it on your street? What's next for the wedding venue? Liquor by the drink? Is that what they're gonna be wanting next? Yes, I used to drink, thank God in heaven, I'm recovered from that now, I've not touched a drop in many years. But we don't need that on our street. Put it here in town if you're gonna have some somewhere. You know, we're getting everything shoved at us up there. Not even no questions, what do you think about this? How would you like it in your neighborhood? It's not right, folks. I don't know where none of yous live, I know where a few of yous live. But would you like this in your backyard? I guess is my question. Your pleasant environment does not include Maple Street. I guess that's all I got to say. Thank you for your time.
You, go ahead.
I'm Randy Wallace, I live right there at the, where Steve and Stark, been up there 40-some years. I know most of you all. But it's getting ridiculous. It's just plumb ridiculous. Did they ever require for a building permit?
That'd be through the county.
Well, when I remodeled my kitchen, I had to post my building permit on the window. They ain't no building permit on none of them buildings. On the one at Wayne Wright's old building, the one that, they could tear nothing apart up there now to redo. But they supposed to have a builder's permit. I've always had to get one. Or they got a different rule than I got. But, and I've talked to Millie about the junk cars they got. Now they pile brush, they cut trees, they can haul it off, they don't haul it up, they just pile it up on the side of the road. You got 2 or 3 of them, they'll zoom up Maple Street, act like they own it. And it's a danger, and no, I don't appreciate the school doing what they done, without us having a say so on that. I think that was illegal, I don't think it was right. Cause we got, Apple Street is not wide enough for nothing. That's all I got to say, but I just don't think it's right.
Where does these people live that you're talking about? Where's the place of business? Is it on the right, as you talking
You know,
there?
Turk, when you come up the street, it'd be Donnie McCall's house. They turned the studio into a wedding adventure. And they had one there, a big wedding this weekend. Because when we go down the road, we have to either run over their cars or just get out and make a move, because they think they can park right in the middle of Maple Street, and there's no way to get by.
Sounds like they need to be told off.
Well, I mean, we've told them cold, but it's just gonna come down that we're gonna have to take it on our own self, to straighten Maple Street up. We can't get no help, nobody don't wanna come up there to help us. And, when you go tearing the land up, it's gonna be a different story.
And Mr. Boutron, I believe, and we did pass a junk car ordinance, did we not? Don't we have a junk car ordinance on our books? That was before you came.
Yes, there is, and there is a specific sentence in there we're waiting to get clarification on, because it does allow for, there's a loophole in there.
Okay, so we're looking at the junk car ordinance.
What's the loophole in the junk car thing?
It's, I don't wanna quote it word for word, but there was a question on interpretation, and a lot of the, and the attorney can step in on this part.
When you jerk the wheels and the motor out of one, it's junk, it don't need to be
There's
sitting
a-
on blocks sticking up in the air for all the neighborhood to see. It's illegal to have it there, I remember when they voted on that. That was where a lot of y'all was ever on the board,
Well, we did another one more recently than that.
yeah. They had nothing, I remember when they voted that in, I was at the meeting.
From what I was told, that ordinance was voted in and adopted because there was a company that had come in and was going to be removing these junk cars at that point in time. They needed an ordinance for them to be able to proceed forward with that. So that's because it was done as a checkbox for a vendor is the biggest reason that we've had some issues and Mr. Perdier and I have discussed this. There's some questions on this that I wanna make sure we get correct before we start removing cars, because, technically, even in central business, this is what I've told some people. I don't live too far from a business. And there's vehicles there that have sat, still on their property for more than 15 days. Under central business, if a vehicle sits there more than 15 days, it's considered to be an abandoned vehicle. So there's a lot of gray area and stipulation there that we need to make sure we approach correctly, so we don't get ourselves into an issue where we remove the vehicle, they could come back and get us at a later point in time.
So we need to work on this ordinance as well.
Correct, there's a lot of stuff we gotta make sure we review correctly and we follow forward with it in the correct manner. And it's not that we're trying to delay it, it's we wanna make sure that once we do it one time,
It wasn't done right to start with.
yeah, once we do this one time, that's the way it's gonna go. And at some point in time, down that line, somebody's gonna get mad. Someone who was for that rule is gonna be mad, because that rule now hits them.
Understood.
Is that okay for us to get mad at you though, cause we have to look at it?
Is there, anything that the town police can do in the mornings and the evenings when school starts and lets out? I understand. And
Mike, what, don't want to interrupt you, the problem of it is, they got them, and we don't know why, school's not blocked off. They got them bringing the kids in, and they're coming down Maple Street, instead of going back out like they did, they're coming down Maple Street. And one thing, when they built that little piece of driveway, or whatever they got right there, Maple Street is a road. Well, that street comes out here. Not the first person has ever stopped to watch for traffic. We done had one wreck up there about,
There's been 2 wrecks up there.
2 weeks ago, caused that.
And
We
they-
explained to them, they need to put a stop sign to that little bitty driveway they built called Maple Street's the right way.
Right.
And besides that street was never designed for that much traffic, never has
Right.
been.
Right. And we can't control what the school does.
It's a
I mean, it never was,
temporary
we was supposed to be notified, we notified, but they didn't come to notify us. They just, we go complain, they just keep bringing, oh, no, we ain't gonna do that, next thing you know, you got shots up our hard talking. Then let traffic run down through like a bunch of wild Indians.
Understood.
But it's just a problem, Maple Street's getting to be a bad problem, you know, a lot like Mike said, and all my neighbors, we all one family, we're a family up there. And we just about sick of it, we just about gone our limit. I've talked to Millie about it.
I understand, I agree with you, buddy.
You know, but we just like to see them coming up our neck like they on Maple Street.
I'd like to see if we do something about the morning traffic and the evening traffic with the police to start off with.
Yeah.
Get them to slow down,
Well, see,
you know?
I was told what the problem is, town limits ends at my corner. Rest of that part.
Well,
We don't hook bombs too.
we got jurisdiction a mile outside.
Well, you got jurisdiction up there.
Outside the limits
Right,
right there, you know.
But it's, somebody's going to be killed. That's
No.
what they put.
not law enforcement. They have to stay within there is a limit that they can go out. However, we don't predominantly go outside of our count. Now, that, what they're referring to, two-way traffic in the morning. What I was told by the school, and this is something they're gonna have to talk to the school board about, is it was supposed to be a one-way traffic. One way in and then a way out down Trojan. So if they are allowing them to turn back around and come down Maple Street, that is something that the school board needs to address. Because it was our understanding from the beginning that it was supposed to go up Maple Street and exit down Trojan. It was not supposed to go through Maple Street and loop back to Maple Street.
Can we not put a one-way street
It's already got
sign
one there,
up
no
there
one.
at the top where Scott put that new pavement in?
The
Is there a one-way street sign there?
school board put that, because when you get,
They put an exit sign
when you get
But
to
it
the,
doesn't need, it needs to be one-way traffic,
It's
stop,
still-
one-way traffic
It's
sign
still
there.
a street and a town and a county road. So it still has to ascribe to the same rules that all the other streets and all the roads do. If there's no stop sign, if it's supposed to be one way, then there needs to be a one-way sign. So who do we go to?
They're sitting right there.
Well, I would think that
If
we would
knew-
get,
If we knew anybody in
why don't
DOT,
we charge Jose to get with Missy, the superintendent, and get a traffic flow set up and let her know that we'll have Officer Terry, one of his officers, sitting up there writing tickets.
Right.
If those folks don't want to stick to the traffic flow plan that you guys come up with to have one way on Maple Street so they're not coming back down.
and
the
there's
road.
gotta be signs, because we can't say, well, it's a school, so they can run traffic anywhere they want, and we're not gonna put up any signs, and nobody's gonna get any tickets. So I don't care who built the road or where it is or what it is, there still has to be traffic signs.
the issue with the connector is the connector is on private property.
Understood.
It was sold to
So we had no control
Oh,
in
the
that
stop.
little curve. The way Maple Street goes is we go up Maple Street, it makes a diagonal, cuts it off. And then we pick up the cul-de-sac on Maple Street. And in essence, I have somebody to tell me, well, why did you pave this section of the street? And my response to them was not being sarcastic, but it was being realistic. I don't know, but we would never pave it again because that's not our responsibility. That belongs to DOT. There's a little small section there.
Right.
That's not our responsibility. What the school board did when they approached us and asked us about it, our ordinances specify nothing on the flow of traffic on the streets. Our ordinance, because it's outside, that is outside, it's considered an ETJ itself, and we don't have anything that specifies them selling that to the school board. That became a negotiation between the school board and the property owner. From my understanding, they came to terms with themselves. I referred them back to, the local DOT office if that was allowed, but from what I've understood is, it's, whether they made that extension, it's outside of the road itself, it's on the private property.
Okay, that's fine. So no, we can't force them to put up a stop sign. You all can't force them to put up a stop sign. We can't make Jose put a stop sign at the end of his driveway. But we can enforce a one-way street.
If it's supposed to be a one-way street, and that's the way that the school board designated, and the council wants that to be a one-way street
Then we need,
from specific time zones, and I'll check with DOT how we can do this, we can do that. But that also means that the residents are trying to leave that morning, they're gonna have to follow with the flow of traffic. They can't go opposite just because they're not dropping off kids at school.
It just seems to me we're complicating this thing. Why not talk to Missy and
that
say,
would be-
Missy, we wanna put up a do not enter, one-way street sign up here. And that you guys put it up, so that they're not coming back down. And if they have to get their SRO officer to sit up there for a week or however long, then he's gotta sit up there because we can't continue to have this two-way traffic on
can't.
Maple
And
Street.
that would be the best way, is
Right.
let me speak to Missy and figure out what's happened, because again, it was my understanding from when they first approached me, that this was meant to be a one-way in to the school, and that they would be exiting out the opposite way. It was not supposed to be a two-way traffic.
And since that has not been done, then we have the prerogative as a council to come in and establish a one-way street. Because they have not held up there in the bargain, or maybe didn't know it was happening or whatever. But we can establish this as a one-way street in whatever.
But I think that would be a disadvantage to the residents because of what Jose just said. If we one-way street it during the time, if Randy's trying to get to town, then, and it's a one-way street, he would have to go up and down by the high school now.
We allowed to.
But I'm just
We don't
saying,
have
if
to.
it's
We done been
designated
told
a
we wouldn't have
one-way
to use
street for time zone, just go talk to Missy
Yeah.
and say, put up a do not enter sign.
See, what kills us, I don't mean to take time,
No, it's,
what kills us is when we gotta go to work, they're bringing that traffic down Maple Street, they're bringing traffic up that street. Have you ever tried to get out on 21 on Maple Street on a busy morning? And the sun's beaming right in your eyes when you're sitting at Wayne Rice looking up the street. I got a neighbor here got clobbered down there trying to get out one day.
I mean, there's gotta be some resolution to this, because the school can't just come in and decide what the traffic patterns are.
It's not only the school, it's not only the, residents, you know, taking their kids to school, it's school buses up and down it too, all, you know, twice a day.
And it goes back to what I was, to my initial statement. It was my understanding, this was a one-way in from Maple Street. They were not supposed to come back down Maple Street. I was not aware that they were using Maple Street as a two-way street during morning drop-off and afternoon pickup.
I have called
Because it was under my understanding from the school board,
Understood?
that this was a one-way morning drop-off and a one-way afternoon pickup, that they would go up Maple Street into the school, drop off students, and then they would be going back down, Trojan to get back on 21. The width of the street is the responsibility of the town.
Exactly,
We did not build a street for continuous two-way traffic.
exactly.
So, in essence, that falls back on us to widen that street with power bill money, but that was never a discussion because we did not,
It was supposed to be
it was
one
supposed to be a
way.
one-way. Other than that, we would have looked at the possibility of impact fees to the school board system or to the county
Understood.
to widen the street and decrease the cost to the town, because the impact of the increased usage of the road would have possibly allowed us to apply impact fees to that.
But none of this is gonna help these people right now, and then the school's gonna get built, and then the problem's gonna dissipate somewhat. So the school board has basically forced our hand.
We will reach out to them and figure out what has happened, but again, my idea was, or my understanding was, one way only.
Understand?
One way up,
I
no
still-
coming down.
Right,
Still-
during morning drop-off and afternoon pickups, it was supposed to go up Maple Street and out Trojan Avenue. So if parents are being allowed to turn back around and head down Maple Street, that is something that is apparently occurring on the school grounds, and we'll have to speak to them and figure out how we can come to a resolution on that.
But that was for school traffic, not for residents.
That was for school traffic. That was school traffic was supposed to be going in.
Okay.
And going back.
So we don't supposed to get none of the traffic coming out of that school.
No, no.
My
No, we supposed to be
understanding,
getting them big trucks pulling them Hudson trailers down, taking the whole lot, blocking the whole road.
my understanding was the school traffic was supposed to be
All right,
one way.
We could live with that.
I still think that, police presence in the mornings when the school is being taken up, that's one way to slow traffic down there, so they don't come flying up. through.
Oh, they block food or just fast to go down the hill.
That's
Is the
where
store
we
on
need
Maple Street
police
still
sitting
existing?
up there.
Have the Main Street side?
Doing those
Yeah.
hours.
Maple Street down to Main Street side is
Yeah.
on the speed limit.
7 to 8
We can look at.
Because we have every
above the
right
speed bump.
to ticket people that are breaking the speed limit on Kemp Street, or Maple Street, or wherever. So that is our responsibility to slow this situation down.
If we do traffic enforcement at Maple and at the lower half of Maple, yes, we can enforce traffic there and.
Well, we have to.
We need to.
What's the speed limit up there, 25? Has anybody changed it?
25. I had the speed limit changed 20 years ago, I think.
Is it
Brian
po-
Nitters was in
Is
there.
it posted anywhere?
I bought him up there and showed him what kind of problem he's having,
Right.
people flying up there, turning around, he put a no outlet sign down at the bottom. Or, I mean,
But
he
you have to
changed
have
the
it-
speed limit,
Posted speed limit.
it had 25 mile an hour.
Is there a
There's
speed limit
one.
sign up there?
Huh?
Is there a sign?
Yeah, they signed
There was
it, they
one.
decided
There
to
was
corner my
two.
property.
Yeah, there
One
was
down-
two, and now the other one is gone.
So
We don't know where
we
it
need to
went.
post it, we need to enforce it, that we can do, correct?
If you go to quarter mile property, that's where they put the sign, cause the town limits in it right
First
there.
step.
That'd be the first
25 mile
step
an hour.
there, is trying to slow traffic down.
Yeah,
And simultaneously talk to the school and say, we agreed to one way, it's gonna be that way, or you gonna have to find
Well,
something.
there was no agreement on the time, and I want you to, I want to make sure.
Understanding, like, well.
The understanding was, what they told me was it was one way, and I'll reach out to the superintendent and ask to speak with her about.
One way for school traffic.
yeah, and let it be
School
up the
traffic.
hill, not down the hill, causing us problems for us to get out. to go to
School
work.
traffic, one way,
One way, up the hill.
If there's a do not enter sign
okay?
at the gate, at the top, at the tennis courts,
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that,
But that's their property, that's a
that's
school
right.
property. So
That-
they
and
can,
that's,
they can
that's
do
where
that.
the sign needs to be,
they can do
and then it doesn't affect the residents.
Oh, no, what affects us too now, don't mean to change the subject, while I'm up here, I'm gonna run my mouth, I'm good at it, Mike.
We're
When,
kind of
when
out
they
of
got a
time.
big ball being up there, they'll run both ways, but they're using Maple Street, and when they let that crowd out, if you have a heart attack, you just tuck there, wait till somebody gives you
At a ball
CPR.
game?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Hawkins.
That's school sport thing.
I thought the gate was
The
supposed
gate
to
was
be
supposed to be closed
closed.
in the evenings.
No, they have them softball games in that field.
It's still, the gate's supposed to be closed.
They should be using our streets coming down.
There were a couple incidents, I know this because my kids played ball up there. There were a couple incidents where the school shut down Trojan Avenue because they had, they were working in the afternoons. And this would be a Parks and Rec, decision. At that point in time, the school board and Parks and Rec worked together, so they elected to open the gate to allow the community events to occur up there, because they could not relocate them anywhere else.
But-
But again, that was not us, that would be a school board and Parks and
But
Rec.
I mean, be brought to our attention, cause if we still can't get out and do nothing, I mean, we all have a right to use that street as long as me and Mike has been up there. We wanna get out, we can't get out, we sit there at the end of the road for 10 or 15 minutes, to get back on 21. Fire knows what that street is.
Problem is also the school buses, I mean,
They don't need to
You know,
come down that street.
I understand these kids, before they built the gate, before they put the gate in up there and built a little path through there, school bus had to come up and get the youngins.
Mhm.
Well, now, you got school buses going up and turn around and coming right back down. They're coming out that way first thing in the mornings, at whatever time they come out.
Again, one-way traffic, one way for school traffic.
Well, I talked to the superintendent.
One way for
I
school
think we're kicking the dead horse
Yes.
at this point. I think we just allow Jose to get with Missy and see if we can't get some resolution to your traffic
Right
issues
away.
out there.
All right,
We can get some
we'll wait till you get done.
Yes, we can get some police.
That'd be a start.
Maybe we'll get that famous quote I always hear, might find a loophole.
Well, I hope not.
Okay. Council's remarks. Council got any remarks?
I'm gonna be short and sweet.
Yeah.
I wanna first off say thank y'all for coming, because you opened
Absolutely.
my eyes to a lot of things, and I didn't know anything about a wedding venue on Maple Street. Also, I'd like to hear the dumpster fire at Wainwright's and burning the construction debris and all that stuff. I mean, that's all on them, and I'm not asking for any answers from any of it, I just think it might need a little attention.
I mean, especially it's a town dumpster, they're burning it in.
It is not town dumpster. We don't own that dumpster. We
Well,
did-
you
we
service the
looked-
dumpster.
We looked into it.
Let me set it beside your house on the kitchen on fire.
But if it's not ours, it's not ours.
Okay,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna leave.
thank you all. It's educational night, one. I'm asking right now for, a motion to, adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
We don't wanna get on.
Meeting adjourned.
Gosh dang, one, and that was, I just thought there was only. We shut her down.
I appreciate it.
This way you enjoy it.